Good morning and welcome on this beautiful Tuesday morning to this live. Time for a little bit of crafting, a little bit of chilling out before the very busyness of the day. Morning, Lisa. I'm half distracted by one of my neighbour's cats who appears to be chasing something in the garden. He's quite a character. He quite often comes and plays and leaps about on things, but I think he must really have found something out there. He's digging about under a piece of tarpaulin to get to something, so he's obviously found something exciting. So I'm half distracted by watching him leaping around the garden, but it's lovely to watch him playing and having fun. If I could play music on my Facebook Live, we'd probably have a background of, time to say goodbye type songs this morning, because today is the last day for the autumn and winter the annual catalogue 2019 to 2020. It's looking battered and well thumbed and all sorts of things going on for it. It's worked hard. We've loved it, but today is its last day. So I was having a quick look on the shop this morning. Now, a bit of a heads up, if you are here in the UK, our shop is being a little bit quirky this morning. Here in the UK, we were very lucky. We are the first people in the world to have this new style online shop, which is very exciting. It is very lovely. It's much improved on the old one. You can do wish lists, you can do all sorts of things, a much better search function, all of those sorts of things. Really lovely. But here in the UK, we were the first people to get it. It's getting rolled out tomorrow to a few more people, so it's going out to the rest of Europe and it's going out to the South Pacific. So for any of you ladies that are in Australia, New Zealand, and if you're anywhere else in Europe, I know that with the catalogue launch tomorrow morning, you're also getting the launch of the new style online store, which is always a bit of a moment, isn't it? But hopefully we've done a lot of the any sort of quibble, any sort of niggles and things, hopefully we've ironed out for you before it goes live. But I think that's why it sent ours a bit quirky today. They're obviously getting ready to ramp it up to send it live to everybody tomorrow. So ours is showing celebration things on the home page this morning and inviting you to buy dies that are no longer available and all sorts of things. So it is being a little bit funky this morning, but ignore that and go on through to the shop anyway. You can still click on down to the special offers and things and go into the retiring part of the shop. And if you go into that part of the shop, I was quite surprised about how much there is still there available. So you're still able, obviously, to get lots of bundles that are carrying over, because you're going to be able to buy those tomorrow. The separate products, you're not going to be able to buy them as a bundle tomorrow. So there is still lots of things there. So if there's things that you're still thinking, oh, I wish I'd got that while it was bundle price, today's your day. Go and check it out before that all finishes and you can no longer get your hands on those things. So as I say, today is going to be goodbye to this beautiful catalogue. Creativity is calling, and it's called all year. So thank you very much, lovely catalogue. We've had fun. We're looking forward to the new one. We shall put you gently to one side, but we're going to have a play with some things. Actually, some of the things, there's one set that we're going to look at that's on the front cover. So we are going to still play with some of the things that are available in here but are carrying over. I've now bound it. It now does have its little ring binders to here, because tomorrow I'm going to be able to share the inside of this catalogue with you. So let's have a look what I've dug out. And actually the set that I've dug out is one that is carrying over from the winter catalogue, the Christmas one. So the Still Scenes is not carrying over as a bundle, but it is carrying over. You are still going to be able to get the Still Seen stamp set, and you are going to be able to get the snow globe dies, and there is going to be a brand new stamp set, quite a fun, quirky one, that you're going to be able to, it's going to coordinate with these dies as well. So I thought, well, let's have a little fun with some snow globes, because your snow globes don't just have to be winter snow globes. We did some autumn ones when we first played with it back in the day. So I've picked out a couple of sort of stamp sets, a couple of ideas. And the other thing with these dies is that you don't have to do snow globes. There are other dies in there that you can take it down a different track. So let's have a quick reminder of what we've got. You've got this beautiful stamp set with this wintry cottage, but there's no reason why you shouldn't go in and add blossom and flowers and things to that. You could certainly make it spring-like. You've got this beautiful ornate base for your snow globe. You've got your snow globe stamped with its shading on. Season's greetings. May the timeless message of Christmas fill your heart and home with joy today and always. So a little snow just there. So a lovely stamp set and a beautiful die that goes with it. This cuts out your snow globe shape. And I was just having a look. I was sure that I'd got some snow globe domes left, but I can't find them. So perhaps I used them all. But those are carrying over as well. So you're still going to be able to get your snow globe domes. You've got your piece to cut a base. You've got a die to cut your cottage. You've got a really lovely fancy die that can cut you an overlay for your base. You've got a rather lovely stag just there. You've got some trees. You've got mummy and baby polar bear, or they don't have to be polar bears, they could be brown bears. Just depending on, they could be pink bears. Depends what colour you cut them. And then you've got these pieces. Could be a Roman villa, a clock tower, or you can put them together and make a church. So lots of different elements in there. We haven't done a shout out. Let's have a look. Morning Div, morning Lisa, morning Caroline, morning Wendy, morning Sally, and morning to Emma. Lovely to see you all here today. Now, as you can imagine, I've got quite a to-do list to do today. I'm sure as any of the others of you have, that if you are a demonstrator, before we go live with the catalogue tomorrow. So it's quite nice to be coming in and doing a bit of a play first. Psych myself up for the day ahead. Right, so I think with this morning's cards, I've sort of got ideas drifting around in my head, but I think it may be that we do bits of one, put that to one side and come back to it later while we do a bit of another. We'll see how we go. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be adding in to our still scenes some sailing home. Yeah, that's for the other one. So I've already gathered a piece of shimmery white cardstock, a piece of window sheet, as I haven't got any snow globe domes left, and a piece of balmy blue cardstock. I've also got some more papers and things here, but we'll bring those in a minute. I think the first thing we'll do is we'll have a think about where we're going to cut our dome. So I think by the time we've cut a base for it as well, we're going to want it to be about there, I would think. I'm just going to take a little bit of washi tape and just hold that down. I could dig out my magnetic base plate, but as the washi tape is to hand, that's the route we'll take. I'm going to take it off of that because that's sending, it's not straight and it's sending my eye doolally. It's right, so that's looking not bad. We'll run that through the machine. Clunk, clunk, clunk. Those noises can, when you, it doesn't always happen when you run dyes through the machine, but it does sometimes. They can be quite alarming, but it's all okay. It's just where the dye is cutting into the plate, and that's all fine and hunky-dory. It's not anything to panic about. Right, so we have our hole in the front of our card, and we've got some window sheet there that we're going to stick behind it, and we're going to stick a base just there. Now we're going to want something on the front of that to sort of decorate round here a little bit. So what shall we have? I think we'll go, I quite like I love the compass in here. There's a compass as well in one of the new stamp sets that's slightly smaller. So that's quite nice because you'll be able to use those two together side by side. And have varying shapes of compasses. In fact, let's have a look and see how different it is. It's a stamp set called Beautiful World. As you can see, it's very similar, only quite a bit smaller, so we might bring that one in actually. Let's bring in a bit of new as well as our bit of old. Now, obviously we're going to have a base down here. Ooh. That's very cute, isn't it? Okay, I quite like that. So there we are. You're going to be able to marry up those two stamps from those two different sets. Oh, I've managed to stamp on my window sheet. For goodness sake, they disappear into the background, don't they, the minute that you lay them down. That wasn't planned. Give that a bit of a polish. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to turn that over. Now come on, I played with all of you yesterday and got you all working. What are you playing at? For goodness sake. Do you think they're shy? Do they get a bit of stage fright the minute I get them out on a live camera? We're going to work all day for you, but get us out live and we're not going to. I won't come out. Dear, oh dear. I had them all working yesterday. This one is now going to splurge all over the place. Look, it's going to go, I'll work for you. Let's take some of that excess, or try and take a little bit of that excess off, just so that it doesn't splurge too much. Right, I'm now going to, after all that drama, press that bit of acetate and see that has splurged just there. Your little tinker. Luckily the base bit will be coming over there. Cleaning the windows, long overdue in this house. Right, so we've got our acetate window in behind our stamped hole, and then I have got, ooh, somebody's having the screaming abadabs. Not a happy bunny. There it is. And now I've got this piece of shimmery white to come behind that I'm going to do my scene on. We're going to create a scene a bit like that child that's screaming outside. So I've got some balmy blue ink here. I'm just going to put a tiny little spot. That's quite a big spot, but on here, and I'm going to add in some water, and we'll have a bit of a watercolour wash sky thing going on in the background there. That's probably fine. Add in a little bit more wave of colour in some pieces. So obviously I said this was shimmery white cardstock because that will take the water slightly better. Let's move that over to one side. And let's clean out our water brush just by squeezing the water through. Now the other thing I'm going to take, let me grab a silicone mat, because I'm going to take a little dabble of embossing paste. It's got quite a distinctive smell, this embossing paste. I'm not quite sure what it reminds me of. Almost putty like, not quite, but almost. I'm going to put a little blob on my silicone mat. Sort of putty meets a strong PVA glue, I think. Very odd. I'm going to add a little spot of blue to that as well, and mix it up because there are no rules about having to use embossing paste white. You can make it any colour you want it to be. And the silicone mats are good because they're nice and easy to clean up afterwards. So we've mixed that through. I'm not too worried if we get a little bit of differentiation in colour. That will just add to the effect. And again, let's have a look by eye where this wants to be. So fairly down the bottom there too. In fact, what I might do is take a little pencil and mark. So this isn't going to show. So that's the bottom. And if we say to about there, okay. So that's given us some marks to work between. And I'm just going to add in some embossing paste in the back here to give us sort of a textured, or the hope is that it will give us a nice sort of textured sea. A bit more down the back here. We'll make it. It'd be quite nice actually, even if we weren't having it behind a window, it would be quite a nice texture effect. What I might also do is just clean that off. And I will take that and give that a good wash in a bit. I'll also just take the tiniest bit of white and add that in as well, just as a little bit of foam on the top of our waves. That's quite fun, isn't it? Right, now you can see why I'm thinking I'm going to start a bit, stop a bit, start a bit, stop a bit. That could obviously do with leaving to dry a little bit. So I'm going to put it to one side while we carry on doing our boat and those sorts of things, and then we'll see what it's like, whether we can just carry straight on with this card or whether we need to revert to the other one and come back in. I'm going to tighten that up nice and tightly because you don't want it drying out. You can see how that's going to sit beneath that window, as we're going to have that raised up a little bit with the sea. What I will do while I think about it is I'm just going to get some of the birds. I think we'll stick with Night of Navy. We won't swap about colours too much. We'll keep it a fairly limited palette, and let's just have some seagulls. Oh, I've got a blob there. Never mind, it could almost be another seagull. We'll make sure that our boat, hopefully, will mask that. So we've got some birds in the sky, just sort of flying into view. So I'm going to set that over to one side for a minute to dry. I'll leave the card front with it, and then again I'm going to come in with Night of Navy and the smaller of the two sailing boats. And we need a slightly bigger block, and we need some Whisper White card. Let's stamp our boat on there. And I think I'm going to take take my water brush, but I've obviously put that somewhere incredibly safe, just here. And let's just drag some of that colour out on the sails and on the hull of the ship. And then we have, if we find the right set of dies, we have this little die that's going to die cut our boat. So let's cut him out. There he is, our little boat ready to sail. The other thing I'm going to cut is a base. Now I thought with this base it would be quite nice. I was imagining this sort of being on a perhaps something that you've bought for Grandad. Nice real sort of masculine feel to this snow globe. So I thought it wanted a nice wooden base. So in our In Good Taste, our new papers that are coming out, we have lots of fabulous wood effect papers. I thought we'd cut our base from one of these, but it's just deciding, do we want to go really sort of dark walnutty colour, or oh, that would be quite fun. Quite like the look of that. So let's just get some snips. I'm just going to cut around that bit of paper and then die cut that. Now I'm also thinking that this bit of wood would probably be varnished, wouldn't it? Look at that, we've got a nice wooden base for our snow globe. Just pop that piece of paper back in there. So in order to give it sort of varnish look, I think what we will do is I will grab some, hopefully, clear embossing paste. And let's take my Versamark. Hi Angie, thank you. Oh, that's fine, Jane. Yeah, we're doing lots of playing today. I'll bring back the bits that I've started. I've got bits of things drying. So this is a base to the snow globe that I've just cut out of a piece of the new In Good Taste designer series paper, because it's got all those lovely texturized papers and things and wood background. So I've covered that quite liberally in Versamark, and now I'm dunking it in my clear embossing powder. Ooh. Let's give that a bit of a right, hopefully that's got a fairly good coverage on it. Let's move that and put, oh, let's not do that. Let's move that and put a lid on it. Before we knock it flying, particularly as I do seem to be all fingers and thumbs at the moment. Let me grab my take a pick tool. And here's, this might well try to wander, so we'll just hang on to it on the very edge, and then we will heat that clear embossing powder, and that is now going to give us the look of a varnished piece of wood. Beautifully, nicely varnished piece of wood to sit underneath our snow globe. I'm going to sit that, let me place that in place. I'll put that in place. This glue is very runny. Right, let's come back into our C and see how that's doing. That's hardening off quite nicely actually. So that's our coloured embossing paste that we've used there to make our C. I think we can risk that actually, while it's still a bit soft, we're going to be able to sit our boat in the waves, which will be quite nice. I'm going to sit that. It's still just soft enough to be malleable. I'm going to put that there so it comes up onto that sort of stray blob half bird, and just push some of this embossing powder up a little bit so it looks as if it's splashing around the bottom of that boat. Now obviously if we wanted to put any sequins or anything in that, it's looking very cute, isn't it? If we wanted to put any sequins or anything in that, we would really have to wait until that is well and truly dry. But what I'll do is I'll carry on even if I don't go quite the last hog. Now our foam adhesive strips are just fabulous for this. We have got a new product coming out in the new catalogue that would be equally fabulous. So we've got foam strips here. We are going to get foam sheets. So what you could do with a foam sheet, if we were making this, is we could find a nice pair of circles. If you've got circles that are big enough, or whatever shape that's big enough, squares, doesn't matter, you can make yourself a frame out of your foam sheets, so that you've got absolutely no breaks in it at all. You know that you've got just your two squares, two circles, two whatever shapes they are, cut together to give you that frame of 3D foam tape. And then you're just going to be able to sit that round the edge, and that in itself is going to give you a beautiful seal for your shaker cards. So that is something to look forward to. And obviously we've got the domes are still going to be available, so you're still going to be able to get the shaker domes that match the match these dies. And there are going to be another set of domes as well that are going to match the punch, but more of those tomorrow, hopefully. Right, so we want to match this up, so we really need to squidge it up so there is absolutely no gaps in there. Not important if you're not putting anything in there, but if you do want to add in any sequins and things, you need to make sure that those are really nicely butted up and sealed, and you don't get any leakage points on your corners. In fact, with that one I might even go ahead and just cut a little smidge and just put a second inner in there just to make sure that that is secure. So what we'll be able to do then is when we've peeled that back off of there, we'll be able to sit our card front on there like that, and that will raise that up a little bit. I might actually trim a little bit off this bottom. It's not going to be visible, so it doesn't have to be very neat, because I think I might just want to squidge that up a bit further. About there, I think. So the other thing I'll do is I'll take a little bit more of our foam strip. I'm just going to put some along the bottom here, and then that will mean that that is nice and even then on that card base. Tuck that back on there. Put those away. So looking very odd at the moment. Now, let me have a quick look and see what sequins are carrying over. I know we have some new ones that are coming. Actually, we will use some of the new ones, I think. So, in one of the suites of products, we've got, it's called the Flower of Season. We have actually got some really nice shaky bits that are sort of like, they're not sequins. You've got some clear and some green, sort of almost 3D elements. So I'm going to take a few of those. I'm not going to shake them down. I don't want them coming down here. I'm just going to lay them at the top there for now. And we'll need to make sure that that's where they stay. I'm not going to put masses in. We'll just put a few. They even give the impression of sort of rain. I'll have a few of those going in. As I say, I don't want to shape them down to the bottom because they may well stick in our embossing paste. We're still at dangerous time. These are the sort of things that you'd normally walk away and leave it for a few hours before you came back and did these sorts of things. Some of the other sequins, so these are new ones. The woven thread sequins are carrying over. That's quite nice because they've got some sort of blues in there that we could pinch a couple of those out to add into our shaker card. And just pick out a couple more. There we are. Now obviously, as I say, I'm not going to want those to come down the bottom and stick into our paste, so I'm trying to be very, very careful. Let's take the backing, whoop, carefully off of here. Where does this one start? Just there. I'll take the back off of that and the back off of this one. And we'll line that up where we want that to go, about like that, and press that all down. I'm actually going to tip it that way so that it doesn't. Let's press all round there to make sure we've got a good seal on there. Let's tip it back up that way. Right, so we have got some little sequins in there, but we're not going to tap them right down to the bottom just yet. Gently, gently, everybody, nobody breathe too hard. Hi Glenda. It's like a tentative operation. We don't want our sequins going into our wet embossing paste. It is pretty dry, but there might just be enough stickiness there for those sequins to stick in. As I say, obviously, if you weren't doing this as part of a live, you'd walk away, go and do 101 jobs, and in a few hours come back and go, right, I'll put that together again now. Right, so we have a bit of a card base going on. So let's again tip it that way so the sequins aren't going to fall into our embossing paste. And we'll stick that on the front there. And then we could just do with some sort of a greeting on there, couldn't we? Actually, I think we'll go back to this is the new stamp set, and we'll have this Adventure Awaits. And then that coming down here. So I'm going to tip that upside down just so that, stand it up upside down. Take no risks. So let's go for, I wonder if this is long enough. Yes, let's use up that piece of card just there. And we'll stamp our Adventure Awaits. Let's cut that off straight that way, and then that will give us a nice flat top there. And we want a bit of Night of Navy behind there. Just dig about in my oddments box, in my Night of Navy bag. Got lots of Night of Navy oddments. So let's just give that, I think it only wants a very narrow border, just enough to make it pop. And we'll pop that up on some dimensionals. And I think something else we could do with, I'm going to take this rope die, just going to cut stay, sit. We'll just have a bit of rope coming across there. To about there. That's it, you can come and peep, but don't get stuck in that embossing paste. You can come out and say hello. So there we have our sailing boat on its embossing paste sea with its shiny varnished wooden base with a bit of rope around it. So that's a bit different. That's a very different use of the snow globes. It shows that it definitely doesn't have to be for Christmas. I'm going to continue to stand that upside down for a minute, just so that doesn't get knocked and all those bits fly off. So the other thing that we said was that we don't have to use the snow globe die itself. We can use the set of snow globe dies without using the actual snow globe. So let's see if we can make this a fairly quick card. Just put some of these out of the way so that we can reclaim our blocks. That was the adventure awaits from the beautiful world. That's the small compass gone on the floor. So that's the small compass from the beautiful world, and we also used the big compass from the sailing home. We used the smaller of the two sailing boats, and we used the birds from the sailing home. So let's pop those all to one side for now. We'll pop to the Knight of Navy to one side for now. And let's have a look at some of these other dies. So I thought what we would use for this next little card would be these trees and these two here that make up, that we can use to make up a church. And we could hopefully create a wedding card. Now, got a bit of whisper white there that I'm going to use to die cut these, but I want to do something to it first. So let's chop that off. That and that, and these bits. Sorry, wobbling you. And I am going to bring in my rubbing alcohol. So this is the rubbing alcohol I've got, 70% isopropyl alcohol, stringent rubbing lotion. Provides a cooling and stimulating effect when used for sponge baths and body rubs. It may well do, but we're using it to spritz things. I've got my spritzer here, is the one that I use for my champagne shimmer mist paint, but it's getting a bit low, so I thought I would bring in some kitchen towel, because this is going to no doubt tip everywhere. So I'm just going to fill up my spritzer bottle. I'm going to go right to the top because then it will overload. Put the lid on that because it is stinky and it will evaporate. I was a bit panicked that that was the last I'd got of my rubbing alcohol, but when I looked in the cupboard, I'd obviously been very good and stocked up pre-COVID. So I'm just going to put some drops of the shimmer paint in there, and obviously the more drops you put in, the stronger. I did shake that up earlier, but I should have given that a shake just now. Let me just give it a really good shake. We'll just tip a little bit more in, just in case we'd only got liquid off the top. Right, so we've got quite a few drops in there, so that should be quite a strong shimmer paint effect. I'm going to put the lid on. This is good advice, put the lid on first. Don't shake it before you've put the lid on. So we've put the lid on. Let's give that a wipe just to get rid of any excess around the edge. And I don't know whether you can see that, but the shimmer paint is sort of sitting in a bit of a blob on the bottom. So we're going to give it a really good shake and really mix that up. So this is the champagne. You can also get frost white shimmer paint. I need actually to get some more frost white shimmer paint. Haven't got very much left. And as you shake it, you should be able to see. Oh, sorry, I'm shaking you. Just to give you like the, like when you go to the cinema, give you the effect. Sorry if that's making you feel a bit sick. Right, so hopefully now we've got a nice shimmery spritz. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spritz that piece of card. And as I've said before, it is very stinky, but it will just make it a really nice shimmery piece of cardstock. Let's gather up the shimmer round about. While that is drying off a bit, mist threw it at the bin and missed it, I'm going to take this die here, which is from the Painted Labels die set, and I'm going to cut out a little piece of vellum. Make a vellum swirly label. Let's just chop a square of that out. I got really so. I was telling you yesterday that I'd been out doing some gardening, trying to tackle my garden the night before yesterday, and it had quite a bad hay fever reaction. But I've also been really badly bitten on on both my legs, one more than the other. Really quite painful. The only positive thing I can take from that is I obviously taste nice. But I'm not sure that that's much of a consolation when your legs are painful. I think that didn't quite cut through. Let's just try that once more with feeling. There was just a little section that hadn't quite gone. Vellum's a funny thing. That did, because it's popped out the die before I've even got as far as Now, I don't know whether you're going to pick up the shimmer on this, but it is really beautiful. Still quite damp. Let's give it a bit of a blast. So tomorrow is going to look a little bit different. I'm going to be in and out all day doing various live demos and various suites. I am going to put up a timetable later. Obviously that will be UK timings. But obviously you're going to be able to catch up with them at a later date. I'm going to post them all up to my YouTube channel, so they will all be available. So I'm going to cut those trees and those that church out of this shimmery white champagne mist spritzed whisper white card. So what you get on this one here, and I don't know how well that picks up, but that is embossed on there, so you do get embossed detail on the front of there. And then I've left my tower behind, which is rather beautiful. And then we've got our trees again. There's sort of embossed detail on there. They would be quite nice as if get more tree out of that bit of card. Could have perhaps done with 2 of those. Let's have a look if we can get enough bits of tree just to right. Okay, so I have a whisper white card base here. I'm just going to score in half. I'm going to take, how big is that? Perfect. To take a whisper white mat, I'm going to keep this very sort of white on white. Church in the foreground. And then trees in the background. I'm going to actually cut this down to give a narrow strip the same as the other side. And then we can bring this one in and bring him to the foreground just here. Obviously that's not stuck in place, that's just laid in place. Now, in another of the new stamp sets, the Forever Fern, there is this Love and Laughter Forever After, which is a beautiful sentiment that would come quite nicely down there. But the big question is, ladies and gents, what colour should we do that in? Should we go silver embossed? Should we go... The vellum is the painted labels. Sorry, while I'm thinking about... So it's the painted labels die set, and which is one of the ones that goes with the poppy bump. This goes with the painted poppies stamp set, which I think is one that you said the other day you possibly got. So that little die out of there is just so useful for giving you that sort of swirly effect, particularly in vellum. So come on, ladies, give us a shout out while I'm thinking and sticking these on. What colour should I do Love and Laughter Forever After? I'm thinking possibly silver embossed is going to be the way to go. But let me know what you think. Right, I'm going to start with stick this church on this vellum. And I love the fact that it's stitched as well. So not only does this give you the swirly outline, but this inner is stitched. So if you're doing it out of cardstock and then stamping a greeting in the middle there, it's really beautiful. It's a lovely die. This cardstock looks really pretty spritzed in this shimmer paint. As I know, one of the things that we talked about the other day and is a bit of a dilemma is what are we going to do now we haven't got things like shimmer card. And now I want some really thin strips on my outside edges, but that is really quite a nice solution. So just make sure you're well stocked up on shimmer paint, and you always have some to hand. And you will be fine. And of course the nice thing about that is that you're not you can have any colour shimmery card that you want. You can spritz those two colours, the champagne and the silver emboss. You can spritz the frost white and the champagne shimmer over the top of anything really. So that's that. Let's stick our trees on. So we will take one of our errant glues. This is working nicely. This one can have a sticker when we're finished. Good working little glue. High five. Don't have a background with working with under fives at all really. Let's stick this one this side, and then we'll take this, which is my shimmery side, that side, half a tree, just pop that up on there. So we've sort of built another pair of trees out of what oddments we had. And then we've got our, I think then we'll bring in some ribbon, and I quite like the idea of sticking with really just white. Or do I come in with silver if we're going to go silver embossing? Actually, if we're going to come in with silver embossing, that's going to introduce some silver, so that's not a bad thing. So I'm going to snip that off there. So as I say, this is very simple in terms of colourways. That's got a bit of a mucky mark, so let's wrap that bit round the back. Looks like it's been trodden on. Nothing would surprise us, would it? Actually, it probably has. My son came and borrowed my desk the other day because both he and my husband are part of the scouting locally, and they've got a Zoom meeting. So if they're in the same room, they get feedback. So one of them comes and sits out here at my desk. And he did say to me afterwards, "I'm really sorry, Mum, I seem to have been fiddling with your ribbon box with my feet all the time that we've been doing that." So that could be why my ribbon looks like it's been trod on. It probably has. Right, so let's go. Love and Laughter, Forever After. Versamark. Embossing Buddy. Even though the embossing buddies are no longer going to be in the catalogue, I am still going to be using them. They are fairly widely available. They're not an exclusive item by any means. There we go. It's a nice thing to wish somebody on their wedding day, isn't it? Love and Laughter, Forever After. You got that. You'll get through most things. Right, let's give that a blast with the heat gun. Whoa, got carried away today. It's all this playing with different things we've been doing. Let's play with the embossing powder. Let's play with the embossing paste. Let's do shaker cards and never mind. Love and Laughter, Forever After. Let's pop some dimensionals on the back here where the church is positioned. Just so that that doesn't show through the bottom. And let's have a little bit up there as well, just to give that top a bit of balance. Okay, peel that off. Looks a bit of a mess on the back, but that's okay because it's the back. And once we stuck this on, it hopefully is not going to be seen. And we'll have that positioned so that that church sits on the top of that ribbon like that. Very pretty. So that's a very sort of clean lines. We'll stick that on there flat because we've put quite a bit of dimension on the front, and we don't want it so that you can never get it in an envelope. So I think then we'll just add in a few shiny rhinestones. Round and about. So a very pretty card. So we've just added shimmer by spritzing that with shimmer paint. So that's using those dies from the that set, and then this one I'm still not going to let them come all the way down, but a bit of a shaker card going on, some carrying over sequins, some new ones from the catalogue. But I'll let that dry a bit more before I really shake those about, so we can ensure that this embossing paste down here is well and truly dry. But that's using the snow globe for a very un-Christmassy card, but would make quite a nice Father's Day card actually. If you've got Father's Day coming up, need a Father's Day card, that would be quite fun. So thank you for joining me this morning. As I said, tomorrow is going to be bit different. So my 9 o'clock tomorrow slot is going to be my walk through the catalogue, and we're going to be highlighting particularly things that we haven't been able to get on pre-order, because we're going to be doing demos with the things that we have been able to get on pre-order throughout the day. So that will be good fun. So that's 9 o'clock tomorrow, and then, as I say, throughout the day I will be back, and one of my first jobs is to put up the timetables for what's happening when, but there will be live demos throughout the day, and they are scheduled for, so 9 o'clock, 10:30 in British Summer Time, so an hour and a half later, 12:30, 2:30, 4:30, and 6:30, and then at 8:30 we're going to do like a roundup. So it's a 12-hour fiesta, catalogue launch fiesta. So there'll be lots of live demos to see throughout the day, or to go back and catch up on, and hopefully lots of samples to share as we launch our catalogue tomorrow. So hopefully I'll see you back here at some point tomorrow. So have a good one, and I'll see you soon.